In this video, I'll be briefly going over the overall layout of the sunflower model tutorial. As we see, this is the introduction. There's a little sunflower icon next to the title to make sure that students who are visual learners can relate to this. In the text, there are colors that highlight the words and make them visually appealing. Generally, in a tutorial, you can allow an option, in this case a secondary button, that allows the student to explore the tutorial first and click out of it. The students can always enter back into the tutorial by clicking on the icon button located in the top left corner. They will go back and where they left off and continue in the tutorial. Pressing the next button will move on to the next section or the dialogue. This dialogue is of type dialogue versus the previous one was of type message. As you can see, the workspace has been paused and is no longer running. This is an example of a trigger right here. If the students want to know the definition of the word counterclockwise, they will have to click on this, and it will bring them to this definition over here. The students can click back to return where they left off, and it will return to this dialog. This button over here is of type option. If students want to click on this for higher level reading, they will be brought to a dialog that explains higher level topics like the golden ratio or limits. These are additional examples of triggers, and this one is a trigger with changed colors. So this is particularly useful when you want to break up text into bite-sized chunks so it's easier to read and more friendly for users to look at. Going on to the next dialog, there are more examples of triggers here, and also of an option that breaks down or asks questions that users can click on to know the answer to. Moving on, it prompts students to open up the widgets panel by putting this in a spotlight. When students click on this widget panel, it will give a brief description of num colors, and it will try to ask to change the value of num colors. As you can see, there is no next button over here because we do want students to change the value of num colors to ensure that they know how to do this. Once students change back the value of num colors, the model will reset and begin to play. We can continue to do the same thing with the rest of the variables inside this model. Changing it, we'll move on to the next step, as seen here. We can also have students click on the action buttons to move on to the next step. Here is an example of a question and answer dialogue. When students want to explore the model to answer the question here, they can press the button, try it out. This will exit them out of the tutorial and allow them to try out different things. When the students are ready to answer the question, they will enter back into the tutorial and press I am ready to answer. Once they do that, they will be brought to the Q&A dialog where they can type their answer out. And this will be submitted to the community forum where they can have discussions about this. This is another example of a Q&A dialog. If the students don't type in their answers here and press submit, it will ask them if they want to skip the question. If students decide to do this, their answers will not be posted. Here are more things that students can take a look at, but are not necessarily questions. That brings us to the end of the tutorial, where a button just exits out. Now, within the tutorial editor itself, we can quickly take a look at the things that we did to make all of this work. So in Glossary, we have a list of all the triggers that we've implemented inside the tutorial. Most of them are repeated, so we will click on repeated for most of them so they can be used throughout. These are all linked to a separate dialog down here, which displays the appropriate definition of the word for each dialog. Going to the user test, each of them has a different handler specifically for the variable that they are looking for to change, including the actions, which there are 3 handlers for 3 buttons that the students can have the potential to click on. As see here are some of the questions and the handler for the submit buttons. A thing to note over here is that some of the sections and the dialogues have the same names, but this is not necessary. The order in which the sections appear is very crucial because tutorial 4 moves on to the next section in sequential order. However, dialogues does not need to be sequential, as they are just called by the commands in sections. That is it for this video. If you want to check out other videos about more specific features, please take a look at those.